Hey, good evening, loyal airmen, and welcome to Airship 27, the podcast, episode number 17. And before we get too far into this, introductions, of course, for those of you who may be joining us for the very first time. I'm Captain Ron Fortier, managing editor of Airship 27, and joining me, as he always does, my partner in crime,
Rob Davis, chief engineer, Airship 27. And before we get too far into this, I need to make an announcement. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network. You can find us on comicspodcasts.com every month.
All right. Well done, Rob. And hey, if you've been following any of our little posts and notes since last week, some of you will know that this is not the first recording of this particular episode. The what do you want to call them? What was the term they had? Gremlins. There you go.
Yep.
The PC gremlins have been at work trying to sabotage the old airship. And we actually recorded this exact show that you're about to listen to twice last week. We recorded it Thursday, found out we didn't have a recording, went back, and thanks to Brant Fowler, who's really helping out a lot and giving up his time for us to get this done. And and we did it again Friday night, and wouldn't you know, right, Rob? Frustration or frustration. We still came up hitting blanks.
Oh, man. Sometimes, you just can't, stuff just happens. There's not much you can do about it. Stuff happens.
That's it. But you know what? We have that never quit attitude here at Airship 27.
Yeah, we're going to do it again.
We are. We're going to do it again. So all of you out there, keep your fingers crossed for us, and we're going to launch into what we have fun calling the fastest hour on the internet. Okay, so here we go. Last week, almost a week ago, I had the pleasure of being a guest at the local Barnes & Nobles here in Fort Collins, Colorado. And they invited me there to give a little talk on the history of American pulps, after which I signed some of my pulp books, both novels and books that I had short stories in. And I got to tell you, Rob, it was a lot of fun. We had a nice turnout. We had about 14 people showed up, and one of them being a good friend of ours, Rio Herrera, who drove up all the way from Colorado Springs just to be with us and to pretty much do a similar thing as we're doing here. Rio found out that when I first announced I was going to do this on my Facebook page, we had a lot of people saying, well, geez, I wish somebody would videotape it because, we'd love to hear your talk, Ron. And that's why Rio did it. He came up with his camera and actually recorded my little 30-minute, American pulp history. So as soon as he gets that edited, we're going to put it up on YouTube, and we'll post a link for it on all our various Facebook pages out there. So all you loyal airmen out there, the tip of the hat to Rio Herrera. And one more tip of the hat, of course, I have to the Barnes & Noble associate who made all this possible, a charming young lady named Nikki Jackson. So, Nikki, thanks a lot if you're listening to this. Rob, it's really strange because, being such a big franchise as Barnes & Noble is all over the country, they allow their managers to set, individual policies as far as whatever events they have locally.
Right.
Yeah, and when I announced that I was going to be doing this, I actually got emails from several of our friends and colleagues from around the country who in the past had approached their local Barnes & Nobles about the possibilities of doing a signing, an appearance, whatever, only to get shot down. So,
that makes no sense, but, I've heard that from other people, too, that the local Barnes & Nobles, some of the managers just aren't interested in doing that kind of thing. I don't know why that's a problem, but they have a problem with that. I don't know.
Yeah, right. And I bring it up here on the podcast, buddy, because for all our writers out there who are listening, who've even given this some thought, pursue it. Don't stop. Pursue it.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Right, and if you want to use some kind of an argument, then remind these managers, okay, that they're operating in your community, okay, and that if you're a local writer, then you're going to bring them advertising, promotion, more customers. You know what I mean? So, it boggles my mind that a local Barnes & Noble guy wouldn't want tons of local celebrities in his shop.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Okay, hey, we've been busy. We have been very busy the last few weeks. Again, the floodgates have opened, and Airship 27 is once again releasing new titles, and I could not be happier. So what's the newest one that came out just last week?
It's just released. Is a book called The Persona by Michael Housel. This is the debut of a new, exciting mystic hero with interior illustrations by Art Cooper and a gorgeous cover by Shannon Hall. Just a stunning cover by Shannon Hall. Hopefully the first of a series. And as usual, if this is one I didn't illustrate, so I haven't read the whole thing. I mean, I sometimes get caught up in a paragraph or two here and there, but I haven't read the whole thing. So if you want to kind of give them a synopsis of what the story's about.
Yeah, sure. I'd be glad to. Michael's story basically, again, and so people do understand, this is a brand new pulp hero, and this is his debut novel. The concept is very akin to Marvel's Doctor Strange and DC's Dr. Fate. You have this little, I think it's Midwestern town called Brinktown, and it's been around for quite a while, post-Civil War and what have you. And there's a gentleman in the town whose family have been the local entrepreneurs. And the town, as the book opens up, is in the middle of a mayoral race. And the incumbent is a tried and true member of the community. He's been around for a while, and our entrepreneur friend and him are good friends, and he's campaigning for the mayor to get reelected. But suddenly, out of nowhere, comes another candidate that's new to the town, that people aren't all that familiar with. And he seems to have a lot of money and a lot of backing. Well, as the novel slowly starts to open up, we come to the realization that there is a demonic cult that has come to Brinktown and decided it's going to take over the town for its demon master to collect souls and whatever. And the way they're going to do it, Rob, is by politics, okay, which probably ain't too far from the real thing anyway.
A lot of people think Satan is involved in politics anyway, so what the heck? Well, yeah, this is a very pulpy idea. Very pulpy idea.
And it works extremely well because, and so the linchpin thing is, what happens is one night our intrepid protagonist is attacked by this cult and left for dead in a cemetery, town cemetery. But he doesn't die. Instead, this spirit figure appears to him and basically tells him that he's been chosen to be the champion of good and light and whatever. And the way that happens is he's given a mask. And once he dons that mask, he gets these mystical powers, as I said, a la Doctor Strange or Dr. Fate, which allows him to see the true guise of the demons around him and to combat them. And so he becomes the persona. It's really a fun book. I enjoyed reading it immensely. And like I said, this is Michael Housel's first work for Airship 27. Art Cooper's interiors are great. Shannon Hall, as you'll recall, Rob, had done several interior illustrations for us in the past. One of them was Mars McCoy.
Right.
And then when we needed a colorist on one of our Ravenwood books and on Rob Moran's amazing Prohibition cover, Shannon jumped up and did the digital colors for those.
Yeah.
So I knew he was a gifted artist from the get-go. So I went to him and basically off the cuff said, it was like, we've been keeping him pretty much on the B team. And I went, this is crazy. This guy is such a good artist. And so I went to him and said, hey, Shannon, you've done such great work for us in the past. We've got this new book. I explained it to him a little bit. I said, how would you like to do the cover, the entire cover, pencils, compositions, colors, everything? And he was flattered. He was excited. He came on board, and as you've already said, Rob, he just knocked it out of the ballpark. We're still getting comments on Facebook on how much people love that cover.
Yeah, and there were a couple of glitches with the coloring in it, because I don't know if anybody's familiar with the difference between RGB and CMYK in a computer. RGB is for monitors of computers and television sets. And CMYK is the 4 colors that go through press to print things. And a lot of times people will create stuff in the RGB and then try to convert it over to CMYK. And in this case, one of the colors that he used just wouldn't translate properly. So we had to go back and tweak it a little bit. But once he tweaked it, it was damn near perfect.
Yeah.
It was beautiful cover.
So hey, Loyal Airman, the Persona from Airship 27, written by Michael Housel. It's up at Amazon, probably on Kindle now too, right, Rob?
I haven't gotten the notification. I have to go over and look, but it should be by now, yeah.
Okay. So that's our latest book for the year. And what do we got coming up?
Okay, next, Pulp Confidential. I believe that's off to Fred Adams. Is this the one, Fred's? Yeah, he's proofing this one for us. So it's off to him. This is Pulp Confidential Volume 1, Airship 27's first ever crime mystery anthology. This first volume features a novella called Scared Pretty by Tim Bruckner that takes place in 1930s Hollywood. An actor is caught up in the hunt for a sadistic serial killer. Then we have The Missing Beauty, which is a modern tale of international intrigue by first-time writer Derek Lanton. It's about a British accountant who goes to Bangkok, Thailand on a job assignment, only to get caught up in kidnapping and murder. You'll want to go into this, I'm sure, Ron, but and you've said this in the previous 2 times we recorded this, that one of the biggest questions we get at conventions is, do you have any mysteries? Do you have any,
Yep.
So this is kind of a response to that. So I get you.
Oh.
You got the background story of this. I'll let you run off with it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for that introduction, though, because you're right. All right. The last two Windy Cities in particular,
right.
I can count like 4 or 5 times. Some of our regulars came to the table, and they'd already picked up Rick Ruby. The Ruby Files, Private Eye.
Right. Yeah.
But and they read our Sherlock Holmes and whatever. But the question was, do you have any pulp mystery anthologies?
Right.
All right, with different stories and whatever. And honestly, we didn't. Earlier this year, and I'm truly very happy for this, and I want to shout this from the rooftop because I don't think it's getting the attention it deserves. But R.A. Jones and Michael Vance sent us, I think, one of the most gripping crime thrillers that's ever been published. Never mind that we publish it, okay? I think this book is amazing. And it's called Motor City Manhunt. Takes place in Detroit in the 30s. It's a great crime novel mystery, and it deals with racism, and it's over the top. It's one of those books, Rob, that should be made into a film easily, okay?
Yeah.
So all that's well and good, but we still don't have an anthology. So going back into the story of Pulp Confidential Volume 1, it's just one of those serendipitous things where elements seem to come together over the last 3 years, I want to say. All right, 3 years ago, I was approached online by Derek Lanton, the gentleman who's the author of the short story in this first volume called The Missing Beauty. And, although we label him as our first-time writer, people are going to sit there and go, oh, so he's 18, 19, or whatever, okay? No. Derek Lanton is somewhere in his mid-70s and has led, I think, one of the most exciting lives ever. He's a construction engineer. He's from England, and after he got his degree, he traveled the world, building bridges, dams, hotels, you name it. He's been to every part, Rob, South America, all the countries in South America, and ultimately he ends up in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, and absolutely loved Thailand, and married there and settled there. The thing is, all during his life, and I think you can imagine this, being this guy who, he's got this wanderlust and to travel the world and meet all different people and cultures, he's also a ferocious reader. He absolutely loves to read. He devours paperbacks constantly. And I can't imagine traveling by plane, boats, or whatever the time he had. So now, here we go. He's retired, living in Bangkok. He's very happy. and he decides he wants to give writing a shot. He thinks, hey, I can do this writing thing. And he has a passion for the old noir, private eye stuff, like Mickey Spillane. It was a dark and stormy night, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what he sends me. He sends me like the first 2 chapters of this story he's going to write. It's in first person, and Rob, it was a cliche nightmare. Every other paragraph or whatever is just rife with cliches. And normally I would read something like that and say to myself, well, okay, this isn't somebody that we can use or I can work with or whatever. And yet, there was something about the way Derek threw himself into his fiction, his enthusiasm, just came off the screen as I was reading it on my PC. And so, and I thank my lucky stars for this. Rather than just rejecting him outright, I wrote back to him and said, Derek, there are problems with what you sent me, but you didn't tell me anything about yourself. Can we get to know each other a little better? And this is something I do like to do, Rob, when we get new writers or artists, to get a sense of who they are, where they're coming from, what their goals are, and how those things can mesh with what we do at Airship 27. Well, like I said, you could have knocked me over with a bowling pin when I get this lengthy letter back, and I'm suddenly realizing I'm talking to a guy who's older than I am, who's had this amazing, incredible life, and boy, didn't that make me, think twice. So immediately I wrote back and I said, Derek, look, stop writing pure, outright fiction, okay? It's okay to write fiction, but why not set it in a locale that you're 100% familiar with? Bangkok. All right, Bangkok's this international city. It'd be a piece of cake to do a spy story there. He gets back to me, Rob, very happy that I'm still on board with him and not cutting him loose. And basically is, Ron, I'm willing to do anything. I'll follow any direction you have. What do you got in mind? And so from that point on, Rob, what I did was I started writing out like a skeletal outline and basically sent it to him. So it was like, okay, your protagonist is an accountant. He's come to Thailand on a business trip. Give me the first couple chapters. He lands, he goes to a hotel, and he's in a bar. He writes it perfectly. Again, like I said, the intimacy he has with the locale all comes through. It's authentic.
He's got all the local flavor because he lives there.
Yeah, of course. Any reader who reads Missing Beauty is going to feel like they've been taken on this trip. So now it's just a case of injecting the mystery elements, which I did, again, piece by piece. But all I was doing, Rob, was adding elements. I wasn't creating the characters, okay? So it was like he's at the dining room in the hotel, and suddenly he looks up, and the maitre d's walked in from the hall with this gorgeous, beautiful woman. And now he's coming towards the accountant's table. As it turns out, the woman is shy about eating alone and wants to know if she can join him at his table. Well, Derek takes that and he runs off with it. A few times we course-corrected because he was falling back into the habit of the old private eye tough guy stuff. But now I had him writing third person and was cautioning him how detail is so important when you tell a story. And you can't go too fast. You have to make sure you've realized the scene. He was a joy to work with. He's a gentleman and very much a scholar. Took us a few months, and we were left with A Missing Beauty, which came in just around 15,000 words, which is, as you know, Rob, our format for a short story in our anthologies.
Right.
But you know what? So now I get this great little short mystery story, but where the heck am I going to put it? And like I said, this is where serendipity and the fates were kind to us, amigo, because it couldn't have been more than a month later. Sculptor Tim Bruckner, who has recently started his own writing career, dropped me a line and said, "Hey, Ron, I've got this novella called Scared Pretty, and it's about a mystery that takes place in Hollywood in the 1930s. Would you like to look at it?" I said, "Sure, Tim. Tim and I are friends." I said, "Send it along. Let me take a look at it." But I says, "You're coming in like 10,000 words short of what we do for a novel. Again, our novels are 60,000 words. Scared Pretty was 50,000. Well, no sooner does he send it to me, Rob, and I started reading it, all of a sudden I went, well, wait a minute. I got Derek Lanton's story. And then, of course, that's when that big light bulb that floats over your head, the I gotcha moment, it was like, well, wait a minute. We got an anthology. Even 2 stories make an anthology.
Sure.
And so I tagged it Pulp Confidential, using the word confidential because it seems to be the word when I was a kid, Rob, when I was a teenager going into local drugstores back in the mid-'50s, they used to have those huge magazine racks against one wall, right? And all the crime stories
right.
had confidential in them, all right?
Detective like, Confidential and, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Private Eye, whatever.
Yeah,
right.
all that.
Yep. It's evocative. It's evocative of what we were trying to do. So there we go. I accepted both stories, got a hold of both guys and said, gentlemen, we're going to do a pulp anthology. You guys are going to help us launch it. It's going to be volume number 1. And then thank my lucky stars because the one person in the world I knew would be absolutely great for this book to illustrate it was our old friend from Scotland, Rob Moran. And because we both know how much Rob loves crime movies, the old Warner Brothers black and white stuff. And he's always busy. Last year, he dealt with some health issues that slowed him down considerably. But I contacted him anyways. I explained what we had on our hands. And believe me, when he heard about the 1930s mystery, Hollywood mystery, that was the hook, Robbie. So his comeback to me was, well, it may take me a year to do these illustrations, Ron. And I went, you know what? I'll hold you to that. If you can do them in a year, we want you on board. I sent a sample of his work to both Tim and Derek. They were beside themselves when they said, oh, my God, this guy's going to illustrate our stuff. And so here we are, 3 years later, and Pulp Confidential, as you've already indicated, is now in Fred Adams' hand being proofread. And as you and I both know, Fred's a lover of mysteries himself, so he was the perfect choice to proofread this. We've already gotten all the art in from Rob Moran. We've got the cover in, which is super cool. And I won't mention it here. Let the fans get to see it when it comes out. But happily, we got another friend of ours, Warren Montgomery, to come and color it, and he did a great job. So, yeah, that's definitely the next book coming from Pulp Confidential. And that could conceivably be out before we go to Pulp Fest, couldn't it?
It's possible. I don't think we'd have copies back in time to take there.
No,
I don't think we'd get it back in time. But it'll be done. It'll be up at Create Space and Amazon probably by Pulp Fest, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I was saying. Because you did order a few copies of the Persona, right, to bring?
I'd have to look. I think I could order those today and we'd have them. I don't believe I have yet. Okay. I can order. Okay. What do you think? 3 or 4 copies?
Yeah, yeah, definitely 3. I mean, if anybody listening to this that's going to be at Pulp Fest, yeah, that would probably be a good idea.
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can make a note of that. All right. So Pulp Confidential, and what follows down the queue after that, my friend?
Well, coming up next, after that, is Rick Lie's Major Sabbath. And this is a tribute anthology to the spaghetti westerns of actor Lee Van Cleef. Pulp writer and historian Rick Lie proposed the idea to Airship 27 a few years ago, and we thought it was a fun idea. Rick then contributed a story featuring this new bounty hunter character, Major Sabbath, and we had Frank Schildiner and Eric Franklin join the team with their own stories. The book ends with a lengthy, emphasize the lengthy because I just did this one. It's kind of long, but it's very detailed, in-depth essay by Rick on Van Cleef and his movie appearances as the black-clad bounty hunter. It's very informative from what I saw of it. Artist,
yeah. I mean, what I call them the American version of I.A. Watson. and our pulp friends will know what that refers to.
Yeah, exactly. So, and artist Michael Dean Jackson provided the wonderful interior illustrations, and the ever-amazing Pat Carbajal, this is spelled wrong here. This is Carbajal. I'll get it right here. Did up the truly beautiful cover. Look for this in early August. That's the way it's looking.
the idea was, and explain that essay, which our fans are going to get eventually when they pick up a copy of this book. Rick Lai comes over to Windy City a couple of years ago, and we start talking about spaghetti westerns, and we get into this whole thing about how Lee Van Cleef had actually played the same character in 4, 5, maybe 6 different movies, Rob.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but because of different producers or companies or whatever, okay, there became a legal issue with the name of the character he was playing. So ultimately, he's like the same character, but he has a different name in each movie. All right. So so Rick's going, wouldn't it be cool to do a series, with that character? And my hackles went up to the point of, look, if they had a problem with the films, all right, I said, I really don't want to get into, legalities here, Rick. Better yet, why don't you come up with your own name for this same character, and then give me a Bible on who he is? And I'm saying that friendly because I'm expecting, he's going to give me maybe 5, 6, 8 pages of a Bible on this Italian spaghetti western bounty hunter character, right, Rob? Yeah, I get 20 pages.
Well, I'm surprised that you, because I know Rick, and he's one of those kind of guys that really gets in. When he gets into something, he really gets into it. So asking him for a Bible, I'm not surprised you got back a Bible, a lot of pages, because the guy's really
Old and New Testament. Well, hey, look, so
exactly.
So looking at this thing, and shortly after we announced the book, because again, Rick was going to write a story. All right, I'd agreed. That was the deal. We do the book. Rick would write a story, and initially we were just going to call the book Major Sabat. All right.
Yeah.
But to be flatly honest with you, okay, after I saw all the work that he did in that essay, I said to myself, this is crazy. This is Rick's baby. This is something Rick poured his heart and soul in. So the official title of the book is Rick Lai's Major Sabat. And again, once you and I put out the word online we were doing this, Eric Franklin and Frank Schindelander both came to me immediately and said, can we read the Bible? I said, well, you sure can. And I sent that long, bloody Bible. And within months, they each got their stories in. So, as we normally do, I would have then looked for a fourth writer. But you know what, Rob? I kept thinking again about all that great work Rick had done. And the more I thought about it, the more I went, you know what? No. Let's give half of this entire project to Rick. It's his baby. So basically, what the fans are going to get when Major Sabat, Rick Lai's Major Sabat premieres, is 3 short stories of Major Sabat, this post-Civil War major, all right, Union officer who now roams the West as a deadly bounty hunter, inspired by the Italian spaghetti westerns of Lee Van Cleef, all right? And then, at the end of the book, this amazing, in-depth detail on those movies. So, hey, if A, you're a Western fan, you like B-Westerns, lots of shoot 'em up and plenty of great action, and you also got a taste for the spaghetti westerns of the 60s and early 70s. Boy, have we got the book for you. And as Rob said, Pat Cabriel's cover, I mean, you see Lee Van Cleef the minute you look at this thing. And Rob did a great job designing the logo and designing it to go with it. It really looks like a 1970s paperback that I would have found on a spinner rack.
Yeah, that was the inspiration. Yeah, definitely. Wanted to go that way. I wanted to go that way. That definitely. And with Pat's cover, yeah.
Bullseye right out of the gate.
Yep.
All right. So again, like I said, you could pretty much count on Pulp Confidential and Rick Lai's Major Sabat. And then in the months ahead, after you and I have done Pulp Fest and whatever, what do we got coming down the river?
Okay, with the typical disclaimer that I always throw out when we do these things. Is that we plan for this book to come out, and then after that, well, another book. Well, we always run into roadblocks of some kind or another. So these are what's in the queue, what's coming up, but they may not be the next books or come in the order that I put them in here. So anyway, Here we go. The following books are in various stages now, and until all their pieces are submitted, any of these could finish up next. The Phantom Detective. All 5 stories are in. Artist Andrew Ritchie is still working on the interior illos. Pat Carbajal hopes to have the cover in by the end of this month, the end of July. And after that comes Hit Wolf 2 from Fred Adams. This is a sequel to his first book about a Green Beret in the 1970s turned into a werewolf by a New Jersey mob. In Book 2, our hero recruits his old team from Vietnam, and they too become werewolves. Lots of great action in this one. Clayton Hinkles is once again on board doing the interior illustration, and Zach Bruner has penciled the cover and is busy finishing it up. And he sent us a copy of that penciled cover, and it's a knockout. That cover it's going to be spectacular.
It's going to be so much fun having Hit Wolf 1 and 2 on our tables at shows side by side, because those 2 covers are phenomenal. Ingrid Hardy did the first one, and she really stepped up to the game. It's a beautiful blend of crime and monsters together. And then here comes Zach, who's so good at doing this. He did our Second Sergeant Janice cover for Jim Beard, and then he did Fred Adams 2 covers for Six Gun Terrors,
right?
Volume 1, Volume 2.
And he did Green Ghost too, didn't he? Did he do Green Ghost?
Yes, George Chance, the Green Ghost.
Right. Yeah.
He has a flair for horror and spooky stuff.
Absolutely.
So when we couldn't get Ingrid, because she was in Paris on vacation, and both of us are jealous as well.
Poor her.
I got to thinking of Zach, and I went to Zach, and Zach really was happy to come on board. So, again, we've seen the pencil composition of what that cover's going to look like, and our fans are in for a treat. Okay, and then coming down the pike.
Yeah, a little further down the road, hopefully, it's looking like. We're talking about how these are going to come out yet, but Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 9 will feature 5 new Holmes and Watson mysteries by writers I.A. Watson, as always, Eric Franklin, Aaron Smith, who's been in not every one of them, but most every one of our Consulting Detective books, and Fred Adams is joining the group. He provides 2 shorts. Adam Shaw is working on the cover for this one, and he's done some covers for us in the past, most notably for the Vril Agenda, which was to me it was an award-winning cover. I nominated it for the Pulp Factory Awards, and
I agree.
It was
total
cover.
pulp. It's total pulp.
Absolutely.
It's great. So,
yeah. And then
we've got, what I just wanted to say was again, because you mentioned this in one of the previous 2 recordings we did this. We do take some time to look at what we have scheduled during the course of the year. And the last thing we want to do, loyal airmen, is to flood you with all just one kind of pulp fiction, because there's so much of it, and we do have so many different genres in progress every year working on it. So here we go. We've already put out Volume 8 of Consulting Detective at the start of the year, and Rob's going to talk more about that, because something happened which sidelined us a little bit.
Sideswiped us, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was the case of Holmes and Houdini. So by the time we come back from Pulp Fest, we will have released 2 Sherlock Holmes-style projects this year, which, again, makes us sit back, put our heads together, and say, okay, well, maybe we should be looking at another project to put ahead of Consulting Detective Volume 9.
Right.
But then again, we still have a novel by Chuck Miller, a full-length Sherlock Holmes novel.
Right.
All right? So these things just don't happen just, at random. They're things that Rob and I talk about a lot, and I'm sure that when we're in Columbus in a couple weeks, this will be one of the topics we give a lot of attention to.
Yeah, it's tops on my to talk about list, definitely.
Yeah, what do we want to do the second half of the year? Now, I mentioned Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 8, which incidentally, because Rob and I are in the midst now of working on the accounting for the royalties from the second quarter of the year. It was our biggest selling book of the second quarter of 2016.
By far, but far and above everything else.
It blew previous Sherlock Holmes volume.
Yeah,
but it also provided us with one hell of a bloody headache from Amazon Kindle, and I'm going to let Rob fill you in on that because I was on the edges helping him out as much as I could, but he was the guy on the front lines, and then he'll tell you not only the convoluted Gordian knot Kindle gave us, but our St. George who came to the rescue finally.
Right, yeah, killed the dragon. When we submit our books, when I create our books, I send them off to CreateSpace and Amazon, and they're in that format. They're in PDF. To do them in Kindle, you have to translate those into a file that Kindles read. It's called a MOBI file, M-O-B-I. And so I did all that, put the book out. Usually I wait to put the Kindle out until after the print book has come out, so we get a little boost to the print copies before we put the Kindle out there, because the Kindles by far and above sell more copies, but we make a little bit less money per copy, but it kind of evens out in the end. But anyway, I want to emphasize the print copies because that's what we're in this for. So anyway,
exactly.
I put the print book up, and then I put the Kindle book up, and then I go on to the next book. Well, a couple of weeks later, one of our loyal fans, I don't remember who it was now, we're on May, but I don't remember who it was, wrote to us, emailed us and says, well, do you know that Consulting Detective number 8 isn't up on Kindle? And I'm going, well, I think I put that up on Kindle. You know, it might have dropped through the cracks, and I didn't do the final bit and authorize it to be published. That happens every once in a while. So I went and looked, and I went, no, it's supposed to be up. So there's a little link on the Kindle page that takes you to each country's link for it. It's sold in different countries. So I hit the U.S. link, and I go, and it's up in the upper right-hand corner. It says, unavailable. And I went, unavailable? Why is that? So I got the contact email for customer service for Kindle, and I emailed them off. I get back this essentially what I call it a boilerplate. It's a form letter. You get it back, and it says, it asks all these little questions, and it says, contact us back with information about this book. So then I write back to him and I say, okay, Sherlock Holmes is public domain. These are new stories that new writers have written. They're not the old stories. We're not reprinting anything. And then I sent them also a link to the federal judge's ruling 2 or 3 years ago now. I think it's 3 or 4 years ago now, on making Sherlock Holmes public domain in the United States. And I send that off. I get back another form letter. And this form letter, this is the one that's hilarious. I get this one back, and it says, okay, please give us the dates of the death of the writers of these stories that are in public domain. And I'm sure you can hear the head slap from miles around, because I'm going, no, that's not. So I write them back again, and I say, no, these are new stories. It's the character who is in public domain. And again, I send them that link again to the federal judge's ruling. And I get back another form letter a day or so later. So and what they ask me for is they want, and also they wanted dates and names of the authors' deaths. So I'm going, Ron, get a hold of the writers.
I'm sure Ray Lovato, Aaron Smith, and Ian Watson would be glad to provide us with copies of their death certificates.
Right, exactly. But anyway, I was thinking, okay, I know what the next thing is going to be. They're going to ask for letters from these guys from our writers with saying that Airship 27 has authorization to print our stories. So I'm saying, Ron, get a hold of these guys. So he does that. And Ian Watson, I.A. Watson, comes back with his, and it's killer. It's a killer's letter, in that the fact that Ian's day job, he deals with silly stuff like this all the time, where you have to encourage the other side to come around to your idea and understand that what they're doing is undercutting your income. He emphasized the fact that, by them not publishing this on Kindle, it impacts his income. And there's always the little the implication that if this continues to impact my income, then I'm going to have to do something about it. So anyway, yeah, exactly. So anyway, Ian sends that letter off, and they sent him back essentially a form letter asking him for the there's a certain number that's assigned to each Kindle book. So he needed that. So I sent him that. He sent his letter off again, and lo and behold, I sign on the next day to see if the book is available, and gosh, it's up at the U.S. site now.
Yeah.
Now, along the way, we had one of our pals, Andrew Salmon, who lives in Canada. It comes back to us and says, but it is available on Kindle, and I'm going, yes, in Canada, where they realize that it's public domain. So there's everybody in the world could get it, but the country in which it was assembled. So, but now it's all straightened out.
Frustrating thing in the world, because as it's going on, you, me, all our gifted writers here, okay, this is our 8th volume. All right, we've done 7 without any of this BS, okay, and suddenly, for whatever reason, 8 raises a flag. Never mind the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Sherlock Holmes that Amazon publishes every single day in hardcover, in paperback, and on Kindle. Okay,
just crazy,
right there. And so it's like it's like you and I talked, Rob. I get the feeling that they've gotten so bloody big.
Yeah,
they hired these people who have no clue. Stick them in a cubicle and say, "Here, take care of that."
And he gets a letter, he hits a certain form, he hits a certain button on his computer, it sends out a form letter. Yeah. That's it.
Heaven forbid you think.
Well, if a lot is coming across your desk, you sometimes you just read the first line or two and you respond to that. Well, guys, at Kindle, read further down, because sometimes it might be a lot easier for you in the long run if you read the whole email. I learned that a long time ago. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's now straightened out, and it's up and available on Kindle.
So please, if you're a Kindle reader and you've been waiting, and incidentally, the fan who kicked all this off for us and made us aware is Wally Conger, Rob.
Okay, thank you, Wally.
Yes, thank you, Wally, who gets every single one of these books from us. Right. And that's why he was, what the hell's going on? I've got the other 7. I want number 8. So, Wally, we thank you for raising the flag. You ever see anything like that again? Do it again, folks.
Yeah.
Those of you who've been waiting to get it on Kindle, it's up there now. All right. Hey, look, we're going to segue from that to another Sherlock Holmes topic, which I had mentioned earlier, all right?
Right.
And I'm going to take and run with this, Rob, because
yes,
you're the guy who came up with the idea, and I absolutely love it, and that's why I want to explain this to people. If you've been listening to the show since we started, you'll know that in the last few months, Rob and I have been talking about this phenomenal novel called Holmes and Houdini that was written by I.A. Watson, and it is a connecting sequel to the Houdini anthology we put out at the end of the year last year, The Amazing Harry Houdini. Now, this book is phenomenal. The novel is just great. It imagines that Doyle wrote about real people. So Houdini and his agent Martin Beck have finished their tour in Europe. They come back to London. But while in Europe, they came across a sadistic cult of jaded rich people called the Far Edge Club, and they foiled one of their plots. So now the Far Edge Club comes to London when they find out Holmes and Martin Beck are back in London, and literally come to kill Houdini. Unfortunately for them, Houdini isn't all that easy to kill. At the same time, Holmes and Watson get involved with a case thanks to Arthur Conan Doyle, all right? And ultimately, both story plots cross each other. It's a phenomenal book, isn't it, Rob? I know you read it when you did the illustrations.
It's one of the few that I do actually read when I assemble the book, because I've got to do the illustrations for it. And it was a page turn. It just grabbed me dragged me into it, and I sat and read the whole thing through. Then I went back and indicated where to put the illustrations in because I got so caught up in the story. But yeah, it's Ian Watson is one hell of a writer, and as usual, it's peppered with his observations in footnotes about history and the timeline, because he did a lot of research on this and made sure that everything kind of locked together into the continuity of both Houdini and Holmes, and it's a fun read, and I had a ball doing the illustrations for it.
Yeah, so here we go. The book comes into us, and months ago, I had approached Utah-based artist Chad Harden to do the cover for us. Chad's done several other covers for us. He's a great guy. I met him a few years ago at the Rocky Mountain Con in Denver. And so when I told him what the cover would entail, having Houdini and Holmes on it, he jumped at the chance because he's never painted either of these guys before in any of his comic projects, Rob. So he was totally on board. Cool. And we discussed compositions. He loved the idea I had for a composition. And Chad was going to do it. So now here we go, right? Pulp Fest is coming up, and we get in Ian's book. I read it and edit it. You read it, do the illustrations, and we go back to Chad and say, okay, Chad, we're a few weeks away from Pulp Fest, and you had given us a deadline, and this is it. So we're hoping that this is still viable, and we'll have your cover in a few days. And Chad gets back and says, I am sorry, but that's not going to happen, and I'm not going to go into personal stuff. But unfortunately, the fates just decreed that this wasn't a good time. Chad, in the roller coaster of life, was not going up, he was going down, all right? And, boy, when he told me, Rob, what was going on, we totally understood.
Yeah.
Life happens.
Yep.
And it takes priorities, okay? We do all this stuff. And for Chad, I mean, this is a priority, too. It's his livelihood. He has deadlines to meet at DC Comics. He has to pay his bills and take care of himself.
And deal with life.
Yeah. So here he is, dealing in a negative situation, at the same time trying to stay afloat with his commitments to people for his paying gigs. And there's no way, all right, and we never expect that. There's no way he's going to put any of that or jeopardize any of that to do a cover for Ron and Rob and our little Airship 27. Okay. So we understand. We say fine. And quite honestly, I'm at that point right now where I'm thinking to myself, well, you know what? It's not going to happen. We're not going to have it for Pulp Fest, and we will just go to the show without it. And hopefully sometimes in August or even September, maybe when Chad's at a better place in his life and can get that cover done, we'll get it and we'll release the book. All right. Well, what I don't count on is Rob's stubbornness here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rob's a dog with a bone when it comes to this particular book.
Yeah.
And over a weekend, I get an email from him one Sunday night, and he goes, I get this crazy idea, Ron. What if I do a cover for the book, we send it to CreateSpace, but we don't make it available to the public. What we do is print X number of copies to take to Pulp Fest for no other reason than to have them there, and we called them a limited edition collector's copy. Honest to God, it was the coolest idea I'd ever heard in my life. It blew me away the minute I read it. I immediately write Rob back, get on Skype now. So Rob gets on Skype, and we start talking about this thing and what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. The next couple of days, Rob turns in the finished cover with the logo and everything. And Loyal Airman, I want to tell you, it's easily one of the best things he's ever done for us. My wife Valerie was walking by the office the day I pulled it up on my PC screen, and I flagged her down and said, Val, come here, quick. She came and looked over my shoulder, and she just looked at me and she says, who did that? That's absolutely beautiful. That's good. She said, Rob did that. She goes, well, you tell Rob I think he's a great artist. Well, there you go. We've got this amazing book. It's finished. And Rob and I came to the conclusion that we were having 15 printed up. The order went in. It's all been taken care of. When we go to Pulp Fest, we are going to sell those 15 copies, first come, first served. They are going to be collector's items. Rob will be autographing and numbering them.
Right.
1 of 15, 2 of 15. So you will have a real collector's item. And what do we mean by that to that point? Let me finish that off. If by some crazy chance we don't sell all 15 in Columbus, then when Rob and I get home, we're once again going to put our heads together, right? And we're going to figure out what to do with the few copies we have left. Because what I'd like to do is maybe some kind of a raffle or something for people involved.
Right.
But the idea being is that all the proceeds that we get from the raffle and the drawing, okay, for those remaining, would all go to charity, which I think would be a fitting thing to do. And it'll be, you know, and that's it. A few of our lucky loyal airmen who couldn't make, you know, Columbus will have an opportunity to get one of these rare collector's edition. And ultimately,
fingers crossed, because I suspect we're going to sell all 15. I do too. I have this feeling we'll sell all 15. I really do.
Yeah. Well, we plastered this all over Facebook, and we had one guy write and said, hold one aside for me. And I went, no, that's not
first come, first served. Sorry.
No, come to the table as fast as you can, because, again, once they're gone, they're gone. So, great idea, Rob. Thanks a lot for coming up with it. And hopefully, like I said, fingers crossed, and we send him some really good thoughts. Chad's situation gets back a really good place, and come, like I said, August and September maybe, he's able to do the cover that he has promised for us, and we will release Holmes and Houdini as it should be released, with a Chad Hayden cover, Rob Davis interior illustration. So we'll keep you posted on how that goes.
Lemonade,
okay, Rob.
Lemonade from lemons. Lemonade from lemons.
Amen.
Okay.
What's next?
All right. Okay, latest on the Brother Bones movie. We promised to keep you all posted on the Brother Bones movie currently being developed by Franklin and Husser Entertainment out of Seattle. Eric Franklin reports he's nearing the halfway mark on the shooting script, and it is coming along smoothly. Meanwhile, Rob, that's me, did up a promotional poster. Gosh, I did that every time we recorded this. I said poster instead of poster. How do I keep doing that? Anyway, I did up a poster, which we displayed on the net for all to see. We've had prints made up of this poster, and we'll have them at Pulp Fest. Man, we're doing lots of special stuff for Pulp Fest. We've only a handful for the show, but we'll take mail orders after we get home from the con. I'll put it up on our website. So if you've ever wanted a Brother Bones the Undead Avenger up on your home office wall, here's your chance.
There you go. And hey, just to pass this along to our loyal airmen, just today, Rob, Tom Brown and the good people at Radio Archive just released the Brother Bones novel by Roman Leary, 6 Days of the Dragon, as read by the really amazing Scott Bennett. So now we've got two Brother Bones out there as well, okay? So, yeah, things are happening rather quickly with Brother Bones. All right, we have a question that I want to get to that was sent to us by Kevin Findley, but because of a couple of events of the last 2 days, I just wanted to interrupt this, Rob, with something that we didn't put in the last two recordings, okay? Because it just seemed to me appropriate that we do so.
Yes. I know what you're going to say now.
There's that old adage about, someone dies and a baby is born kind of thing.
Yeah, circle of life.
Over the weekend, the Pulp community, the new Pulp community, was really, really saddened to learn of the death of one of the nicest and most amazing creators in our field, and that's the passing of Michael Hudson. Michael and I had known each other for a couple of years prior to conventions. We finally met at Windy City one year, and Michael was one time, I believe, editor at Dark Horse, and then he started his own company. He was a sculptor, Rob. He did some beautiful sculpting.
Beautiful
pieces. Yep. And then he started an outfit, comic series of pulp books called Pulp Sequential that he put together and Dark Horse would release. And in fact, they did one on Tarzan last year, and a lot of our friends were involved with that project. It was a beautiful book. And he had tons of other great projects in the work that was going on. And suddenly, just like that, he's gone. He's gone. It's just
short illness and taken away from us. Just almost like overnight.
It was pretty much. And believe me, okay. That morning when I got up and I got on Facebook and I saw one of the postings, I think it was Bobby Nash, who knew Michael really well and done some work for him. Bobby posted, and at first I thought he was talking about somebody else, that maybe somebody else with that name. But then I kept seeing names, and then sure enough, the actual posting was on his Facebook page. Somebody from his family had put it up there.
Right.
So, hey, look, all you out there who knew Michael and were his friends, and our condolences and our sympathy, and we Rob and I have this feeling. We come at the world from different views and philosophies, but we really believe creative souls don't ever really end. Okay, not if they touch people, all right, and they affect them in such a positive way as Michael did. So let's cherish his memory. Let's keep it alive, and if we do that, we keep Michael with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the sad news. Yesterday I get online, Rob, on my Facebook page, and our good friend Andy Fix, right?
Right.
Okay, and his wife Connie, they were at Windy City, and she was very pregnant.
Oh, good.
Now you know where we're coming from. You have to go see this on my Facebook page. Andy posted it there. They had a little boy, Rob.
Oh, cool.
So his name is Leland, Leland.
Oh, that's a great
Leland
name.
Fix.
Wow.
Yep. And there's a picture. You're going to love this. There's a picture of Andy sitting in a rocking chair, holding little Leland in his arms, and reading from Jezebel Johnson, The Pirate Queen.
Oh, my.
That's it.
Oh, my.
So,
that's cool.
So we got a new Pulp fan in the making, my friend.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, that's definite turnaround for a definite circle of life turns around.
That's it. That's why I wanted to bring that up. Okay, Kevin Fenley writes this: Greeting, Airship. Convention season is upon us, and surely many fans are putting aside their hard-earned shekels to meet you and Rob at Pulp Fest. The question for the two of you, though, is who was the writer, artist, actor, etc. you met that made a particular convention into a lasting memory? Keep implying Kevin. So why don't you take and start with that, and then I'll wrap it up.
Okay, well, the person who inspired me to become an artist was Jack Kirby at Marvel Comics. I saw his work when I was 8 years old, and one of my plans once I became a professional artist was to go to the San Diego Comic-Con and meet the guy because he was there every year. So the first year I went, a couple of months ahead of the time, Jack Kirby passed away. So I did not get an opportunity to tell him what an inspiration he was to me and how much he meant to me. So a year or two go by, and I'm at another San Diego Comic-Con, and a couple of friends of mine and I, Tony Isabella and Bob Ingersoll, are friends with Mark Evanier, who used to work with Jack Kirby. He was an assistant to Jack. And he has asked us all to go out to dinner with him. So we go to this local Italian restaurant, and Mark brings along Joe Sennett, the inker of Jack Kirby's on Fantastic Four and some of his other works. And so I got the opportunity to tell Joe how much Jack meant to me and how much his inks over Jack meant to me. There was, to my mind, he was the quintessential inker on Jack's work, especially on Fantastic Four. Yep. So that's the memory I have of an artist or someone from the entertainment world that meant a lot to me and is very memorable. So that's my story.
Yep. Well, again, we could talk about a lot of conventions that we've been to, and I mean, the first time I went to the San Diego Comic-Con, the real treat for me, honestly, wasn't even meeting creators as much as meeting the late Don Thompson, and his charming, lovely wife, Maggie, who at the time were the editors of the Comic Buyer's Guide. And I started subscribing to the Buyer's Guide, Rob, when I came back out of the Army in 1968 with this dream of being a comic book creator. And so once a week I'd get the Buyer's Guide. And it was all our the newspaper of the comic industry.
Right.
And so eventually, so many people had great columns in that, and Don would write a review column every so often, and he'd review a batch of comics. So here I am, I'm getting started in the business, and I opened the Buyer's Guide one day, and Gary Conlon and I had just published our first ever Mr. Jigsaw comic, and Don reviewed it. I was shocked. It was like, coming out of Charlton Comics. And you mentioned Tony Isabella. Tony had seen it and called Don, said, you ought to check this book out. And sure enough, Don reviews and gives it this glowing review and likened it to the old C.C. Beck, Captain Marvel. Anyways, from that point on, whatever independent comics I got out there, Don would ultimately review and always give him thumbs up. So it was such a rush for me to meet him in person, shake his hand, and thank him so much for being such a huge support and helping me launch my career. All right, he's the salt of the earth, and Maggie is too to this day. Now, the other person, obviously, as a writer that influenced me as a comic writer was Stan Lee, and I got to meet Stan at a convention in Baltimore years later. I got to shake his hand and tell him to his face what his writing and his career had meant in my life. But the story that still makes me laugh, Rob, because again, it's one of those moments where you get a second chance, but then again you wonder about that second chance. And I'm at San Diego Comic Con the following year with Valerie. We're standing in line getting ready to go to the Eisner Award dinner on Saturday night. And we're looking, and up ahead, I recognize Forrest Ackerman, Uncle Forey, the editor of Famous Monsters of Filmland. And Rob, when I was a kid, that was the greatest magazine in the world. Through Famous Monsters of Filmland, I learned so much about the old Universal horror movies, the cliffhanger serials, stuff that today people say, where'd you learn all this stuff? Famous Monsters of Filmland. I mean, Forey's magazine just covered all the genres that you and I love so dearly. So I'm telling Valerie this, and she's going, well, go shake his hand. You're not cutting in line. Just walk up to him and say hi. And I geeked out, Rob. I couldn't do it. I'm the total fanboy. I'm just nervous and everything else, and I let the moment pass. Well, we come home, and now I'm kicking myself because it didn't happen. Well, within a couple of years, an artist named Bud Root, who's a friend, calls me up and says he's going to Washington, D.C. for the annual Monster Convention. And this is a cool convention, believe me. Never mind pulps and comics. This is about monster movies, monster books, whatever. And this year, the two top guests were Ray Harryhausen and Forrest Ackerman. So Valerie sends me off, packing up, says, this is your chance, don't blow it, Ron. Say hi to Mr. Ackerman. I said, yeah, okay. So I get to D.C., and Bud picks me up. We go check in the hotel. We check out the convention. We meet a few people. We go out to dinner, and just talking, just rapping and talking, whatever. I wake up the next morning, Rob, and I sit up and I start to say hi to Bud, and I can't talk. I have no voice. I had come down with laryngitis over the night, and I'm not kidding. People could barely hear me. It was croaking. You thought I was on death's door. So Bud goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, what do you think I want to do? I said, what do you think I want to do? I said, we still got to go to the show. So sure enough, we go down, we leave our hotel room, we go down, have a little breakfast, and we go to the convention. And there's the line in front of Forey Ackerman's table, and he's sitting there with a convention aide. Forey brought these magazines, and he was autographing them for people. So I get in line. Now, this young lady's in front of me. He's very polite and charming to her, and she walks off, and I walk up wrong, right? And I lean over the table, stick out my hand at him, and go, hello, Mr. Ackerman. It's a pleasure to meet you. And he just falls back. He, gets so far away from the table as if I've got the bubonic plague and I'm contagious, right? And he's looking at me like he doesn't know whether to shake my hand. And then I gestured to my throat and I said, forgive me. I said, I've got laryngitis. And then he looked, and then he grinned, right? And he reached over and he shakes my hand. And I tried to manage. I said, you don't know how much you've influenced my life. I says, I ended up writing the Green Hornet comic book. And if it hadn't been for you, that never, ever would have happened. And he said, well, you're too kind. He said, nice to meet you. He said, I hope you feel better. And so that was the one that struck me. And so that's why I wanted to wrap up the show with Kevin's letter, which was really a great question. Hey, all you loyal airmen, when you go to conventions and you see your heroes, don't be shy. Go up and say hi. Go shake their hands, okay? What Rob and I and comic writers and artists and all other creative people do, it's a lonely job. We do it in our offices and whatever. And we specifically go to conventions to meet you guys, all right? To socialize with you, to learn what it is about our stuff you like, what you'd like us to do, all those kind of things. We're all in this together. So please, okay, if anything from this question and the way Rob and I have answered it, please come up to the table, join us, and have fun with us. There you go.
Yep, please. Come by.
All right, and that's the case. In 2 weeks, buddy, you and I are going to be in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, so come and see us there. If you're
please.
within driving distance, come and see. Even if you're a little outside driving distance, drive a little further. I mean, I'm driving 10 hours, folks. Come on.
There you go. If you've never been to a Pulp convention, you've only done comic shows, come. You're going to find there are similarities, but there are also a lot of different things, all right? And believe me, you will have fun. You can take that to the bank. Yeah. And there you go, Rob. I think we've gone over by a few minutes, but
That's
what
okay.
the heck, after doing this but 3 times, I think we're allowed. All right? So I think we should wrap it up for this night. I'll let you say goodbye to folks, and then I will finish it up.
Yep, this is Chief Engineer Rob Davis of Airship 27 saying so long and see you next time.
All right, and this is Captain Ron saying down ship.
This has been a Gonzo Goose production. Honk!